now induct these young inventors into the National Gallery for America's Young Inventors. Will Arjun Jay Arora from Raleigh, North Carolina, please come forward to receive his award? Arjun has a patent pending for his research. He won 4th place at the 2013 Intel International Science and Engineering Fair in Biomedical Sciences.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here. Now, my work is in the area of inflammatory breast cancer. And inflammatory breast cancer, it's one of the deadliest subtypes of breast cancer. And it's considered a health disparity based on the overwhelming way it affects younger women and minority women. And the mechanism by which inflammatory breast cancer spreads is very unique. So, in inflammatory breast cancer, as the single tumor cells depart from the primary tumor, they form these clusters called tumor spheroids, which then spread throughout the body, metastasizing in distant organs. So a major problem is that many cancer treatments are not effective in killing these tumor spheroids, these clusters of tumor cells. Now, I hypothesized that the reasons that these treatments were not effective was because tumor spheroids were expressing some high levels of anti-cell death proteins, essentially proteins that would prevent these treatments from being effective. And a major problem that exists today with studying tumor spheroids and how effective a treatment is there's not a lot of ways of looking at these individual tumor cells inside the tumor spheroids, because as you can imagine, it's a multicellular system, but really the only methods of analyzing them that existed prior to my invention were looking at it as a single mass, so you don't really understand what's going on inside the tumor spheroid. So to target these anti-cell death proteins that I found were expressed in high levels, I developed a novel high-content assay that's able to test the effectiveness of different treatment methods by essentially looking at how they affect specific morphological features of these tumor cells inside the tumor spheroids. So I'm able to simultaneously create images and study morphological features. So I use this novel high-content assay that I developed to test the efficacy of various treatments. So this schematic shows the creation of my invention, the high-content assay. So I started by growing the tumor spheroids in a way that mimicked the way they grew inside the patient's bodies. And I then used a variety of dyes to then test the different morphological features of the tumor spheroids. I could look at the nuclear health, or the mitochondrial health, and levels of cell death that were going on inside the tumor spheroids. And this table essentially shows all the different morphological features I could analyze, such as aforementioned the nuclear health and the mitochondrial health. Now, these images here show the images I was able to create using this method. So as you can see in the controls, these show healthy tumor spheroids, and they're expressing very strong mitochondrial health and nuclear health and very low levels of cell death. And I then used this high-content assay to see how effective it would be to target these anti-cell death proteins. And what was really great that I found was when I targeted the specific protein NF-kappa B, which was essentially preventing these cells from undergoing cell death, I found that I was able to cause massive cell death in these tumor spheroids. And what was really fantastic was I identified this drug known as disulfiram copper, more commonly known as Antabuse. It's an anti-alcoholism drug, and it's already FDA approved. And I found that it can be repurposed for causing cell death in these tumor spheroids. And the way that I found that it was so effective was by using this novel high-content assay method that I had developed. So, in conclusion, my invention is known as 3D CHIMPS, and that stands for 3D Cell Health Inflammatory Breast Cancer Multiparametric System. And what that means in plain English is it's a drug screening assay. It allows scientists to see how effective their treatment method would be in causing cell death in these tumor spheroids, because they can see specifically what's going on in the tumor spheroids. Because prior to this, say you were a scientist and you wanted to see how effective your drug was, you could go in and maybe you would see that this blob, this tumor spheroid, it would get smaller. And that's about it. You don't really know what's going on. But with this high content assay, I was able to see, okay, this drug, it's causing a mitochondrial decay, it's causing the nucleus to break down. So I can really go in and see exactly what's happening. And essentially, this is a bridge between drug screening and clinical trials, because it allows scientists to see which drugs they want to go forth with and actually test in a clinical sense. So this would allow a lot more treatment methods to be available to patients that maybe would not have been available before because there wasn't sufficient information for how effective they were. So this method is known as the 3D CHIPS method, and it's the first method of its kind. So in conclusion, I would be remiss if I did not thank my mentor, Dr. Dewhurst. It was in his lab that I worked on this project in Duke, and none of this would have been possible without his endless support. So thank you very much. I guess I'm supposed to make some remarks now. Okay. Yeah, sure. Anyway, so, 2 years ago, I was just a really persistent high school sophomore, and I was emailing countless labs in the hope that I could do some work with breast cancer, because that area really interested me. And if someone had told me then that after all that pestering would eventually lead me to standing here in front of you all and accepting this extremely generous check from the benevolent Edison Innovation Foundation, I probably would have called him a crazy person. But 2 years later, I'm standing in front of you all as a result of this research, and the feeling is truly surreal. But of course, when I started off, I never really did it for an accolade. I tried to make this innovation because I wanted to make a positive change, one that would make a difference, hopefully not only in this generation, but for posterity to come. And I really am eternally grateful for the National Museum of Education for sort of recognizing the importance of innovation and promoting it to make sure that innovators, such as the speakers we heard today and the 5 other amazing individuals who are also accepting awards, that these sort of innovations are not lost as new generations come. So I would like to profusely thank the National Museum of Education for that. And of course, as I said before, I would like to thank my mentor, Dr. Dewhurst, without whom none of this would have been possible. And of course, last but definitely not least, I'd like to thank my parents, whose endless love and support I would be lost without. I love you guys so much. And lastly, I would like to dedicate this award to all of those with cancer and their families, and the doctors and researchers that are working tirelessly to find a cure. You all inspire me so much each and every day and remind me just exactly what I'm working towards. And I just want to tell them that I will never stop fighting. And in the words of King Leonidas from the movie 300, no retreat and no surrender. Thank you very much.